Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast, episode 117. This is where we share our experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, training for a rating, or just thinking about getting started in aviation, we like to think of the podcast as your aviation companion and your weekly dose of aviation inspiration. Tonight, we're going to start a war. It's going to be the high wingers versus the low wingers. My name is Ben, and I am an IFR-rated pilot with a commercial certificate. I'm based here in the metro Atlanta area, and I get to fly a Cessna 182. I like to call the Beast. Joining me tonight from the Bachelorette Super Charlie, he flies a Cherokee 180 named Lucy. It's my friend Brian. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Super excited to be here for our high wing versus low wing tennis volley of we're really just lucky to even be in the aviation world at all. It's funny that we argue these things. It's so picky, but it's so fun. So we're going to have fun with that this evening for sure. I wanted to make a quick side comment here. You mentioned and you always do this when you introduce, we talk about our planes and what they're named and what we fly. And so, yes, I've been fortunate enough for the last while to be flying Lucy, the red-topped Cherokee 180 that's very Lucille Ball. I have some bad news to report. As life goes, things happen, things change, and sometimes we don't like it. I just wanted to send a special shout out to my friend Ryan, who was one of the former, who was a partner in Lucy, and he and his wife named Lucy. He passed away unexpectedly last week. I had just texted with him on Sunday and was telling him about how I broke the latch in the hangar door and sent him a picture of it. And his last words to me on this earth were, "You broke that real good." So it wasn't just, but a couple days later, he had some health issues that came up that, he was only 44 years old, grown kids, great guy. If there's anything to take away from who he was, it was that he was the kind of person that everybody could rely on. He would, you hear this, but he was the person that would give you the shirt off of his back. He was the person that would help. He was the person that was always there to help. And he would go above and beyond. And, so he was a firefighter. He was a family man. He was a lot of things. I knew him as a pilot and, was lucky enough to get to fly with him. And so I'm just thinking of him and his family and his friends. And I just wanted to make it known that the person who named Lucy is no longer with us. And so we are going to find a way to memorialize him on the plane. If anybody has any ideas about how best to do that, open to it. So Lucy's annual is coming up in a couple of weeks, and so that'll probably be the time that we do that. So anyway, just wanted to give a special shout out to Ryan and his family and thinking of them. And I don't want to take any more time than that, but I just had to say something because we talk about Lucy every episode, and there would not be any Lucy if it were not for Ryan. So just really wanted to send that out there. Yeah, that's it.
Our heartfelt condolences to his family. That's really tough when it goes so suddenly. Also joining us tonight, based in Portlandia, flying a Flight Design CTLS we like to call the Egg. It is our friend Ted. Good evening.
Hey, nice to be here. Yeah, I had this realization when I was flying that there's a countable number of summers that I'll have to fly. And there's something about aviation and also midlife that made me realize that. It's not I see mortality because of crashes or things like that. It's just this realization that there is a limited time. These are countable numbers. It's not like when you're 11 years old sitting in class and it feels like time stretches to infinity, probably before the class goes out, that it's that long that you can't even imagine the end of the period. And for some reason, I realized that because again, I count summers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
crazy stuff.
There's probably some people that can't even see the end of this podcast, Ted.
I don't blame them. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe because of us that they can't see the end of the podcast.
Yes.
So tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to do and we'd love to hear from our chat. We've got a growing group in there, and we'll definitely be listening and watching for your comments. With regards to events and announcements, we have secured space to record a live podcast at the Big Texas Send, which is May 2nd through the 4th, year 2025. We're going to record the podcast on Saturday, and we should be starting right around 4 o'clock, and it will be at the TAC Aero hangar. Go check out their website. They've got some really cool stuff going on there. They do a lot of tailwheel training. They have a regular flight school. And I know they do a lot more than just that, but it looks like that they do a lot of backcountry training as well in their tailwheels. So it looks like a Carbon Cub fleet that they use. So maybe if Mr. Ballard, who is in our chat, can maybe we can get something on the calendar and I can get my tailwheel endorsement. Maybe there could be some additional fun to be had.
TAC Aero, I believe, started at an airport up here near where Carbon Cub Crafters is located. And they opened the second location down there and all of that. Recording the podcast, they told us, great, we've got a space and no chairs. And I said, I will not stand for this. And we came up with a way to get some chairs. So gotta love the community at the airport for that. And yeah, it's going to be great at 4 p.m. On Saturday afternoon.
4 to 5. So that was maybe the best dad joke you've ever done, Ted. I'm very impressed. You're not going to stand for it. Anything else about the Big Texas Send that we need to let everybody know about?
I don't think so, other than just let us know. We understand that people have intentions to do things, and then life happens and things change. If you have RSVP'd and then you've realized that you will lose your job if you come or whatever it is, just let us know, because we're really already well beyond what we imagined the capacity for this to be. And so every bit that we can understand about what's actually happening can help us with the level of freak out that we
Yeah.
We need 5 volunteers to cancel your RSVP. No, it's amazing. I'm super excited about it. I can't even believe the attendance that we're going to have. But if something comes up, please let us know. That's all.
And
the hotel.
Yeah.
That's key, because the hotel's booked, the hangar hotel on the field there. It is booked fully. And so if you have a reservation, do 2 things. Let us know that you're canceling the RSVP. Also cancel at the hotel. There is a waiting list for people to get a room. By the way, there's plenty of other options. It's not like that's the only place, but free that up.
And in the event planning channel in Discord, I started 2 threads for people flying commercial into Austin and into San Antonio. So if you want to share a rental car with someone out to T82, that's a place you can plan on those. And if anybody's planning on sharing an Airbnb or an extra large tent, we can create a thread for that too.
Very good. In our chat, Jason Sharp mentioned he didn't get the email. And Jason, I didn't see you on the list, but we can connect offline on that. But, I'm still kind of freaking out about it, and I'm excited about it. I do believe that Terry, my lovely bride, will be joining us. So it won't take a lot of convincing of her to spill any embarrassing story that you'd like to hear about me. My shenanigans, my stupidity. But it was, it should be a lot of fun. Brian, do you want to go over the housekeeping tonight?
Yeah, let's knock that out real quick. Let me, we have a sheet with this information on it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I found it. We are grateful for you all making this the best pilot community that we know of, a positive space where we share everything from training experiences, shared personal minimums, tackle ownership challenges, review flight plans, and best of all, make new aviation friends. Connect with us. Join our Patreon community from $1 a month, or do a one-time annual Patreon. I guess you get a discount or something if you do that. Isn't that right? It's like 10% or something if you do the annual. Yeah. And you can access exclusive content, including our Checker Ride debriefs, our Killing Zone conversations, and much more. 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. Watch us live on YouTube Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Share your stories with us, midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com. We read all the messages, and you might even hear yours on the show. And for everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, community feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com /dad hats, but we should probably do that. Anyway, midlifepilotpodcast.com.
Awesome. Ted, a lot of going on in Patreon and on the Discord server. You want to let us know about it?
Yeah. We've got some new Patreon members. I'd like to thank them. At the Latinomatic level, we've got Once Twice Melody, aka Jonathan B. It's a friend of my friend Mark T. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Paul C., Mike M., and Max F. I'd like to thank those people for joining us.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to see that. Nice to see people rolling into Discord. There's been 3 or 4 people in the last couple of days jumping into Discord. A couple comments a couple of topics that I've noticed. There's a lot of talk about how to log flights, especially for the logging your commercial cross country and what ForeFlight does and doesn't do for recognizing flights. There's definitely opinions about whether you should log everything together or split apart. And I love kind of the through line of it all is whatever your DPE wants is how you should log it. And
that's right.
That's such a great way to put it, right? We spent a couple of videos and pictures shared of Alton Bay, which is an ice runway up in the frozen north of the Midwest. And a couple of those resulted in incidents, like a belly up landing after hitting a snow berm. And so going to highlight Alyssa as a comment of the week here for saying, all of this is just further encouraging me to keep my plane off the ice and on regular runways. This is definitely the safest way to go. So,
the comment would have been a little bit better if you didn't really set it up. Just if you would have just said, this comment is the comment of the week. But no
explanation of ice.
Set it up. Yeah. It would have been funnier though, I think.
Yeah.
So thought we'd go around the table with a personal aviation update. Yesterday, I am dangerously close to losing my night currency, and I said to my lovely bride, I think Sunday night I'm going to go up and do some pattern work, because apparently after the perfect pattern episode, I probably could use some work in that. And lo and behold, I get a text from one Brian Siskin and say, "Hey, what you doing?" And I love it when I get that text because it usually comes with nothing. What you doing?
No, it usually comes with, "Hey, I need you to pick me up."
Actually,
That's what Mark does. Yeah.
That's right. No, that's Mark's thing, not your thing.
Yeah.
One Dog Geeks. So yeah, we decided on a spot that I'm pretty sure is geographically halfway in between Atlanta and Nashville. And that would be Suwanee, Tennessee, Uniform Oscar Sierra. This will be the third or fourth time I think I've flown into this airport. And the first time was with my college roommate who had never flown with me. And the winds were swirling pretty well up there. And I had a few beads of sweat dripping down my forehead coming in on approach. But yesterday was beautiful, a little chilly.
You should set the context a little bit about what that runway is and the setting.
That is probably a good point. So it's up on top of a hill. Mountain.
Mountain.
Hill, mountain. It depends on where
it's
you're.
A mountain.
It's a mountain. For the East Coast, it's a mountain. And it's Suwanee is home of University of the South. And there's a beautiful campus there, but it's right on top of the hill, and it's not really sloped. I mean, it maybe has a little bit of a grade to it, but what's cool about it is it's this little tiny town, and at the FBO, they don't have, I mean, half the time there's nobody there. There's self-serve fuel, but they have bikes, all these bikes sitting at a bike rack that you can go and just grab one and take this little trail down to the downtown area. There's a couple of restaurants and a gas station. And so we all flew in together or met up there. We arrived within a minute of each other, really.
And it was actually quite bizarre that, because I thought we were well ahead of you. I thought you were running further behind. And it was so cool to just hear you come up on the radio announcing you were 10 miles out and we were maybe 6 miles out or whatever. And, that was just, it was so synchronous. It felt like, okay, this is supposed to be happening right now. We're just, we're on the same page, So, and by the way, you're skipping over a few details. One is that the runway is very narrow there, and
it is narrow,
and it's surrounded by trees in such a way that there's sort of three phases of landing there. You've got like whatever the winds are above the trees, at the trees, and below the trees, and it's a very and one of the funny things about that runway, I was telling, so Luke from Luke's Landing was in my plane, and I was laughing because I said, "Why are the stripes? This is like a 50-foot, or maybe I think it's a 50-foot.
It's 50 foot. I checked it. Yeah,
the stripes are from LaGuardia, like they're not in proportion,
right,
to the runway. So it actually adds a little bit of strangeness to the illusion of that a narrow runway can provide. But anyway, so yeah, we got in there, and then we made sure to watch your landing. You had an excellent landing, and easily stopped at the taxiway because you have a aircraft that stops and doesn't take much to land. But yeah, and then the other thing is you get these bikes, and then let's set the tone here for a minute, Ben.
Yes, let's.
All right. So we've got, and Luke is younger. Luke is an honorary midlifer.
He is, because I learned yesterday he is half my age.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is half my age.
But
go ahead.
He was equally winded as we all were.
Yes. I don't begrudge him for that. It's a very easy bike ride down. It's downhill the whole way. And so you just hop on the bike and let go of the brakes, and you can pretty much get down there with ease. The problem is you go eat these wonderful meals. And, I think I ride a bike once a year, and that's in Suwanee, Tennessee. And it's for the half mile down and the half mile back. I just don't ride bikes. It's just not what I do. And climbing that hill on a bike that's chained skips gears and, struggling a little bit. I was doing everything I could to keep that BLT down. That was my goal, is to not let it come back up. But it was definitely a good quad workout, as Luke mentioned he says, because after a long cross country, I really want to work on my quads. And that's exactly what we did. But it was a
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
awesome.
writing down the airport code for the show notes, and then you said it was University of the South. And
Yep.
what's the airport code again?
UOS.
That's
There you
kind
go.
of brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, and people love the story there about the bikes that are there. It's not that the FBO provides these bikes. All the FBO does is goes into town at the end of the semester and just rounds up bikes that are left all over the place by all these kids that just don't care about their bikes and are leaving town for the summer or whatever.
Right.
And then they just throw a sticker on it that says, property of the airport, and they throw them on the rack. And then every time I've been there, it's a different set fully. It's not like the same bikes make it. They don't maintain. I don't know what they do. They just disintegrate.
I mean, some of them are really nice mountain bikes, 12 speeds with the shocks and everything. And then some of them are beach bikes. I mean, it's everything in between. Our friend JB Alunist, also points out, and I was actually kind of looking out for this person, but it's home to Max Trescott's frequent guest, Catherine Cavagnaro, and she has confirmed that is a challenging runway. So she does upset recovery training, spin training, and things like that. She's nationally, maybe world-renowned flight instructor. So a lot of people go there to take. You did as well, didn't you, Brian? Or were you signed up?
I was supposed to, but the weather didn't work out at that time, and then it's just she's very busy. It's hard to nail people down. Which, by the way, my favorite story that she ever said or mentioned in any of her podcasts or things that she's been on. My favorite story is when she's talking about climbing to, whatever she takes a 150 an aerobat up to, where you basically need oxygen, and then just sends it in to get as many spins as possible to try to beat these records that she keeps making. And so, and she was saying that she was on flight following. And so she was, 30 or something spins into this 70 spin run or whatever it was that she was doing. And Memphis Center comes on or whatever, calling her out and saying, traffic, 6 miles, 2 o'clock.
Now 3 o'clock, now 4 o'clock, now 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, but that's
Sir, can you see me? Do you see what can you, I guess on a radar, it would look like you're just hovering or something.
yeah, you're just staying in one spot.
But I guess what would show a descent,
Yeah.
quite a healthy descent. So anyway, they'd be like, wow, she's really evasive here. She's going straight down. But yeah, so great airport, great time. It was good to see you, Ben. I had a good time flying with Luke. Luke and I flew from there to Dixon, Mike 02. And I was, we were flying the RNAV 17 coming in and as a practice approach, and just trying to see how well my autopilot can do these things. And right at about the final approach fix, it just decided to start going to Colorado or whatever it was deciding to do. And so bailed on that pretty quick and just hand flew it in from there. I don't think I'd landed at night in a while with no pappies or anything. And that was, Luke was like, are you comfortable with this? We don't have to, I'm like, dude, it's fine. Look how crazy high we are, but, which is another reason to get, I love Lucy, right? The Cherokee, you can just hang it up there, man. It doesn't care. But anyway, good flight, and then flew out of there back to Nashville. It was an excellent day of flying, and glad we got to meet up, man.
Yep, me too. And then you did some more flying today.
Yeah, I got up and did a instrument lesson this morning, and actually went back to that. I was what do you kids call it? The unpublished holds. Doing some unpublished holds.
Nice.
And it's really, I don't understand. It's not hard, except for that it's really hard.
Were you under the foggles while you were doing your holes?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had actually 3 sets of foggles on just to make sure that, no, I had 1 set of foggles on, and I don't know. It doesn't really, I kind of don't really care about the view limited aspect of it. It's more just the execution of the flying. And I'm not bad at precision flying, but there are things that start to kind of happen quick. And I was doing all the radio calls. I was, the actual calls that were going to the field that were not in practice RNAV speak, and simultaneously doing his mock calls of, ATC vectoring me to this unpublished hold, and then all of that. So anyway, I know for much of our audience, this sounds like complete amateur hour, but we all start somewhere. And I'm just saying, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to keep up this kind of training that I'm lucky enough to be able to partake in right now. But I'm doing what I can when I can, and just chipping away.
Yeah.
And it's just a different mindset. It's not like private training where if you don't do it every 2 or 3 days, you might as well just, you just feel like you're redoing everything all over again. This is a little different because I'm more settled in just overall as a pilot. And it's interesting to see his feedback too, where it's probably, I don't know. I think that for people that go straight from getting their private right into instrument, there's still things that whereas he doesn't have to worry, I think, as much about a lot of things that I'm doing. And if we have to, I don't know, go mist in a hurry and climb right turn to 3,000 or whatever, it's not wondering about how coordinated I am necessarily or things like that. Plus, tailwheel instructor. So anyway, it's been really cool, and I'm really enjoying that. And then I did some flying again later today. That was just I wanted to do some flying. It was such a nice day, so I just wanted to go out and do some non-foggle flying. So it was great. Oh, nice. Banjo pilot. Today was my first instrument lesson. I'm with you. Yeah, man. That's awesome. And to me, I'm sort of, I don't know, I'm kind of just excited by it because it's something different and it's a challenge. And I am not in a vigorous hurry to do it. So that makes it kind of, I'm just more at peace with, okay, yeah, I screwed that up, whatever, I'm in just a different headspace than I was getting my private, where I was beating myself up mercilessly at every turn.
Yep.
Very cool. Any helmet fires?
A little bit. There was definitely one point where I just said, can you make that call, or, things like that. What it was though was, and I suppose this is a real world thing, Ben, but when you're dealing with the pattern and you've got, I don't know, you're in a non-towered airport and you've got various people doing various things and you're trying to do a practice approach, and people are, I don't know, there's jets coming in and they say that they're doing a 7-mile base or something. And it's like, well, how does that relate to where we are? And,
right.
You know what I mean? And are they putting that together? And then, all the right of way things and all of that, it just creates a different puzzle of VFR-ness in its IFR-ness.
It's long been a complaint of mine. Once I got my IFR, it's easy for a jet or anybody that's flying an IFR saying, I'm at the final approach fix. And to a VFR pilot, that means nothing.
Yeah.
And have always been a proponent of, when you are doing a practice or a real approach for that matter, when you're making your radio calls, I'm 6 miles out at the final approach fix. I give some more context around exactly where I'm at.
Yeah. I felt like you, Ben. I'm doing a 7-mile final.
Yeah.
I'm just but that's the reason why I'll punctuate that with on the practice RNAV 17 or whatever, is because I just don't want people to think that I'm doing it straight in for no reason.
Yeah.
But by the way, and that was the other thing we didn't mention about Sewanee. You cracked me as soon as you got out of the plane. You're like, well, how was that pattern entry, Brian?
I put a lot, by the time I was over or near Chattanooga, I was studying that sectional, planning out the exact perfect pattern entry. And I got to say, I crushed it, because, I'm following the magenta line, which is going to put me in the center of the airport. And I decided I'm just going to go about half a mile off, parallel to that magenta, which will give me a 90-degree turn into the 45, which will set me up perfectly. And I don't know if you were tracking me on FlightAware or not, but I did that just for you.
Well, get it into Flystow and share it, and let's marvel.
Analyze it. I'll do that.
We can marvel at the geometry of your pattern entry.
Ted, enough about us.
Yeah,
We've been rambling on for too long. Tell us what you and the egg and your iPad have been doing.
Yeah, there is not much time between work and horrible weather to fly, but I knew that Friday was going to be tolerable and that it was going to get worse. And so I went and hopped up for a quick flight, and I actually flew 52 miles away. I was like, this is like, cross country distance, and which was great to actually go somewhere. And land and turn around, came back, but I realized when on the way to the airport, I was like, I don't have my iPad. It's like, am I going to stop a flight over this? I'm like, no, because I have like 7 screens in the plane. I have my phone. I have 3 different ways that I receive ADS-B data. Like the iPad is only one of them. So
and the chip in your brain is the other.
Yeah. Yes. It's got pretty good reception, actually. Yeah. Terrible to get through, commercial going in the airport, but yeah.
Well, you got your hair cut, so that makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Better reception that way. So, yeah. And the other thing is I put out a video that's entirely just taxiing around an airport. So it's the weirdest video.
I saw that. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love how you exacerbate the waiting by, like all you're going to be doing is watch. It becomes very, I don't know how to explain it. When you put a timer up, it's like, I guess I'm going to watch this and wait with him. He's clearly set this up that we're all waiting here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I enjoyed it actually. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working on something else and which I'll release soon, but I thought, this is a neat little story in itself. There's going to be very few people that like it. It's not a casual video, but there's just enough weird things going on and lots of light up and wait on the runway and student pilots and just the Canadian dude in the wrong place on the ground. Just it was kind of a little bit of an adventure. So
yeah,
it inspired me to start doing something in my airplane. So Stuart has a habit, and I do it now too. The ADF receiver has a timer on it. And so we leave it on. So as soon as you turn the power on, it turns on and starts counting. And then I use my Garmin 345, the ADS-B, the transponder. It will record your flight time. So when you get at 60 miles an hour or whatever we set it at, it records it as you being in the air. So it's flight time. So I like to now look at the difference to see how much time I really do spend on the ground. I have Garmin Pilot set up to where my taxi time is 0.1. And now I really want to kind of measure that out. I've got reliable data to do that. But when I saw your timer on there, and then it kind of clicked into my head, I need to leave that ADF on and see how that is. So
yeah,
very cool.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to be really clear. It's like, this is not a complaint. 9 minutes is not a big deal, especially when there's lots of weird things going on like that. But it's just interesting to me.
Yep. Want to get to one of the comments real quick, and then we'll hit the top, get into the arguments, the spat, the debate. Lionel in our chat said, my brain melted yesterday during an IFR lesson, broke off to enter the pattern, lifted foggles, and honestly, I just couldn't compute and blew pattern altitude. My brain and eyes were not happy. I want to make a quick comment on that. Lionel, the more helmet fires you put yourself into, the better you will be at them. So, and be able to deal with them. So that's, when I go for proficiency checks or go up with a CFI, I ask for the helmet fire. So, it's good training, really good training. So tonight, I want to set the stage. As midlifers, I think we'll be whatever team, high wing or low wing, really kind of depends on what aircraft we have access to. Maybe there's some of us midlifers out there that have access to both, but we've got 2 high wingers as hosts and 1 low winger as hosts. Although Ted has flown quite a number of different airplanes. Brian, you've flown both.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, I have 1.5 hours in a Piper Warrior out of the 1,150 hours that I have in my logbook. So I don't think it's going to be a big stretch to know where I'm starting out from. I will say the number one complaint of people that fly low wings who gets into a high wing is that base turn to final, not being able to see anything. And I guess I get it, but it just, you get used to it, just like everything else. I do see that, when I did get into a low wing, I was like, oh, wow, look, you can see the runway. That's pretty cool. I can not overshoot the runway just about every single time in a low wing. But that's, I get it, but it just doesn't seem to bother me that much.
It'd be hilarious to get an artist to do a painting on the underside of your left wing that is, once you dip the wing, it reveals this image where it just looks like a cub is coming right at you with the runway in the background. That's a real thing. I think it's massive. I like to see things. So, but the visibility stuff, it's everything is, you always say this, Ben, and it's totally true. Everything's trade-offs. So for wherever you get a gain in one area, you're going to lose something somewhere else. And so one of the things that I'm always thinking about, for instance, is, and one reason why I don't do any kind of teardrop entries, not to bring up pattern entries again, but I'm just saying descending near the pattern in any way in a low wing is a little nerve-wracking. I don't like that at all, because there's a lot of, it's just one giant blind spot. So I feel better coming in at pattern altitude, doing a direct midfield or whatever. So everything is trade-offs. I actually have been finding it really interesting to watch Josh Flowers go through his quest for he and Chelsea to figure out which plane they're going to get, the sling, the TSI, or the high wing, and to see it playing out with them, because they're both high wing flyers and have been for a long time and have those planes, and to see them sort of going through those machinations to figure out what they want. And I'll tell you this, Chelsea said something that really stuck with me, that I thought that's exactly it. Is she really thought that the high wing was going to be what she would want or whatever, and she thought that the low wing would. And I think Josh similarly was thinking low wing is going to block my visibility of down, and I'm a filmmaker and I want to be able to see everything and all this stuff. But the point that she made was, I actually realized that I like seeing the wing in the context of where I'm flying and what's going on, and it makes it a different experience. I that's something similar that I had sort of felt, but maybe not worded in that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those 2 slings are really interesting because it's basically the same plane. It's literally the same wing put into 2 different bodies, and the low wing is a good 10 knots faster. Because the high wing has extra height to it for the wing spars to go through above the head. So if that's your only goal is efficiency and speed, can't argue with that. Sling is like, oh, this is great. This is why the 916 exists. More horsepower, right? It's like, well, yeah, you could also put that in the low wing. So I just think there aren't many direct comparisons like that, right?
Correct.
Same wing, same engine, same,
right.
So
does the sling high wing have a more higher useful load?
No, they're, really similar.
Okay.
All the numbers are pretty similar on those.
Got it. Yeah.
Steven Stills,
flying. Go ahead.
Steven Stills has really said it, right? It's love the one you're with. And,
right.
I really feel that way, right? Like I did 120 hours in the RV-12, and I had a few hours in other things. And the first plane that I went to rent was a low wing, and that was fine. But the reason I'm in a high wing is just because I like the plane. It's not because I'm, a proponent of high wing. There are things I love about a high wing though. So
I agree. I will hopefully one day be flying for a living, and it could be, a TBM, or it could be a Cessna Grand Caravan. It could be either way. It is 100%. You're going to love the one you're with. Lord Alpha Juliet in our chat mentioned, he's both. His club is Cessna products, and they're all high wing. But if you're going to get a job, more than likely you're going to be in a low wing. So, but I will say though, I find myself when the autopilot is on and I go through my instrument scan, make sure all the engine temps, everything is fine, and listening out for radio calls, I will be staring out that window and just, I don't know, I just can't not look at the ground. There's something, even when I'm flying commercially, and I'm choosing my own seat, I'm not sitting by the wing. I want to look out and just enjoy the views.
Yeah. Well, it's also the wing position can vary a lot in these low wings, and wing forward, wing back, etc. I think that for this may sound strange, but I have a lot of time in 172. I feel like when I'm flying a low wing, I feel like I'm flying like a real plane. Does that make any sense?
You're telling me I'm flying a fake plane?
I'm saying, okay, how do I, those, Ben, like how people have, especially in our part of the country, people like their big pickup trucks, right? And those things that they put on the back of the truck right off the trailer hitch?
Yes, I do know what you're talking about.
That's what
nuts. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Chip, that is what you are in a high wing, Ben. You're just hanging from a wing, right? The center of gravity is just different in a low wing. I didn't even know we were going to go here, but this is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm
trying to charge this up a little bit because I want people to get more charged in the chat.
Yeah, so I drive a F-150. Now, I don't have those things hanging off my I have a trailer hitch. But
do you have a Calvin sticker?
If you want to call the 182 the pickup truck of the sky, I'm all right with that.
Do you have the Calvin sticker?
No,
with another logo in it.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying that the feeling of hanging from a wing is similar to what would be hanging from your. It feels like that versus being really locked into the dead centerness of the plane. It's just a totally different feel. And to me, that equates to this feeling like that I feel when I'm in a high wing, I feel like I'm hanging while flying from a high wing. Whereas when I'm in a low wing, I feel like I'm just slicing through the air. Clean.
Let me hit Wendell Geeks comment. He says, I think what Brian is trying to say is that there's a sportiness to a low wing compared to a high wing. I think going with your analogy,
sportiness meaning that
you can kind of think of a park bench where you're sitting on it versus a swing set where you're sitting under it. And there is a little bit of that feeling.
Flying that low wing, it's like your engine fails, drop a brick out, and that's where you land. Where, when you're in a high wing, you've got places to go.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about option fatigue.
Right.
But to be clear,
I'd rather have them than not.
That is a Piper thing, not a low wing thing.
That's right.
The wing efficiency is different.
That's a fair comment, and I take that back. Let me ask you this question, because I have only landed a Piper Warrior maybe 3 times, and that was in 2019.
And that was one landing.
Okay. I'm going to just let that one slide. It was actually
I thought you were going to say it. I don't know.
No, but here's the thing. Do you think there is any more or less skill or the same amount of skill to land a low wing versus a high wing?
Okay, that's interesting. If you're placing that in a skill, and obviously I'm really speaking from a piper perspective. So,
But you've also flown 172s.
yeah, but I'm saying like as far as I don't have a lot of various low wing experience, right? So I'm really coming from more of a. We can refine this maybe to being Cessna versus Piper in some ways, but I think it takes more. I think it takes more skill to land a high wing probably than it does to land a low wing when it comes to Cessna versus Piper.
I would just say a really smooth land, like a butter,
Yeah.
because you have those spring leaf struts and they're a lot more sensitive to it. So I'd agree with that. But yeah, AJ brings up a couple of good points. The glide ratio of a PA-46 of Malibu is like 20-1, and my 182 is 8-1. Actually, with the Stoll kit, I think maybe you can get a little bit more out of that. But
Ben, I never want you to say that again. AJ brings
what?
up some good points.
yeah, I mean,
never needs to
you got to
finish on
give.
the show.
He's allowed 2 to 3 good points a year, and he's just used 2 of them. So we'll
On
just
the
let that slide.
PA-46, he's getting turbine time right now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mr.
So-
Alunis has a great point here, which is one of the things I love. I'm going to give you 2 things. This is the first. He says high wing flyers don't have to worry about switching tanks every 20 minutes. That is very true. If you look at the new Slings or the new Cirruses, they've both gone to an automatic switching, so that because of the problem of low wings needing to switch the tanks, you can talk about advantages and disadvantages, but it's one more place that I can be dumb. And I'm dumb. So I prefer the high wing where I have a both. And that is much less of a problem for me.
You know, gravity has never failed me. Gravity's always going to pull that fuel down into the gas tanks.
You and I both have fuel injected planes, so they're still very dependent on
But you don't have to have the
pump.
fuel pump on at all times either, though.
Well, I do because I'm
The engine
highly
engine
fuel-
driven, but yeah, mine we're just using it to prime.
Yeah. Now, I've got to say the other thing, and this is actually the thing that keeps me in high wings more than anything else, which is the ease of getting into it for people with limited mobility.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to be young and spry to be able to climb into a low wing or into a high wing. I mean,
If you have an irrational dislike for people that are not able-bodied or elderly, then the low wing is for you.
make it a positive. Yes.
Yes.
Like it's a way to just weed out a lot of people that might want to
Yes.
ride.
Look, if you're tired of doing your yoga classes every morning, just buy a low wing and just get in out of it. That will count for your yoga.
They'll hate it. They'll never come with fly with you again.
Hey, we've got to hit Jason Sharp's comment here. He says, we low wingers don't worry about switching tanks. We only worry when we forget to switch them. Valid point. Yes. And then
It's
the
really
glide
not a
ratio
big-
is important.
It was kind of a thing for me when I first switched over, but I don't even think about it now. It's really easy to manage, and I have 530 just reminds me, and whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
And guess what? Not seeing the runway on base doesn't really bother me anymore either. So
Yeah, and then also, even if you had no indication or every reminder that you've set up is failing you, when you're going down to keep changing the rudder trim while you're in cruise, you start to go, oh wait, why am I having to? Oh right, okay, so.
very good.
My Dynon does say switch fuel tanks and or switch fuel. I can't remember exactly the wording of it, and I use that as a reminder to monitor my fuel, and so I'm still in that habit of every 20 or 30 minutes using that reminder as the prompt for it.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, in mine, I do have to burn it off the right because of the way the unused fuel returns into that tank. And if you let it go for more than an hour, you can get a small imbalance. So I do have a timer on my iPad that I do remind myself to switch tanks. So none of us are really immune to that.
Yeah.
I really like the high wing obviously for tail wheel. And for low flying,
Yes.
When you're just, it's all about what am I seeing right there. And, if you're doing that kind of backcountry stuff, right? Like you want to do inspection passes or whatever. So you probably should be able to see as best as you can straight down.
Yep.
But, look, I am just grateful to have any kind of an airplane to fly, but I really truly love, the low wing. I was a little reticent about getting into a Hershey bar airplane. I love it. It is fantastic. I just think it's the coolest thing. And I love how easy it is for me to get around, even just the airport and hangars and people pulling their planes out, and I can scoot around because I don't have 36 feet or whatever it is. I've only got 30. And so it just feels a little bit more nimble, a little quick, a little, I don't know. It's just it's a great thing. So, but
let's
it doesn't
end it
really
on
matter.
this.
All I want is a plane though that has the interior of Ben's plane. That's all I,
Let's end it this way. I will admit this. Taxiing the 182 on the ground is not a lot of different than taxiing my truck. They're very similar.
Yeah.
So, we'll go ahead and leave it there. We'll let the chat continue to have their way with it. What I would like to do is ask y'all, or thank all of our Patreon supporters. Love to thank everybody in the chat. A couple of new faces in there, and a lot of the same old group. So we're glad you're with us. You can catch us live on YouTube Monday nights at 8 p.m. And is there anything else that we need to bring up, gentlemen, for the good of the order?
No.
Tonight's bit of wisdom. The difference between fiction and reality, fiction has to make sense. Signing off, episode 117 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.